All right, always love catching up with Mike Small, Illini men's golf coach. It's a fun time to do it with his guys killing it on the tour. Mike, how's your summer going, man?
It's as busy as ever. I've been doing this for a lot of summers, and every summer it seems like it gets busier and busier. But obviously, yesterday with Brian winning like he did is just another fun weekend for us.
How much are you getting on the course right now? What's your summer like personally?
I've played three or four events this summer, and one good one and three kind of average or below average. So I'm struggling with my game a little bit, but maybe that comes with age, I think. But I've been out recruiting a few times, and obviously on the phone a lot after June 15th. And then with the transfer portal going on now after the end of the season, usually you have a 2 or 3 week break between the end of the season and June 15th when you recruit new juniors. But now with the transfer portal, that's all bogged up. So really, there's no time to take a breath. But that's the way it is. We got to evolve, right? We have to evolve with what's going on.
Yeah, no off season. There's no off season for us covering all this stuff with you guys. You
You're
guys are the ones.
exactly right.
You
You're
guys are going
you're
everywhere.
you're exactly right, man. Nobody's got off seasons anymore. It's a busy time for all of us.
Well, I want to talk about the transfer portal because obviously you've been very active in it, but we got to talk about 30 PGA Tour events and three are won by Illini golfers, three by your former golfers. And of course, Brian Campbell just went out and won a second PGA Tour event, another playoff win for him. Only five other golfers have won multiple events this year, and Scheffler and McIlroy are two of them, right? So, what has led to this for Brian Campbell at age 32 to break through like he is?
Well, I had a bunch of text messages again from people this week, and a few of them said, I remember Coach back when he was in college, you said he was going to be a PGA Tour winner. And I believe that. He had all the intangibles of it. He could score when he wasn't hitting it well. He's always a good wedge player, a very good putter and chipper. Needed to probably, add some distance, but obviously players can figure out how to play without that, and obviously he's shown that. But I know it's always been in his game, but he's had been riddled with injuries for most of his career. He got on the PGA Tour very quickly out of college, like a lot of our guys did back in the day when you could get access that quickly. And they took it on the chin his first year, which is normal. I mean, these kids are young and just come out of college and playing with the best players in the world. So that happens. And then he fell back to the Corn Ferry and then he got injured and was injured for 3 or 4 years and nagging injuries. And ironically, this year he has 2 wins, but he's had to withdraw 3 times already for different little ailments. So, some people that little injury bug hits more than others, and it seemed like it hit him maybe, 2, 3, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. But he perseveres through it. Jeremy, he's just a gritty kid. He's got that composure, that self confidence he's always had. Even when I was coaching him, he was hard to get through to it sometimes. Hard to get through to him because had that good stubbornness, that belief in himself, and he doesn't really float around and jump to different flavor of the month ideas, if you will, for a golf swing, and doesn't listen to other people and just stays in his lane. I think that's what's helped him obviously get to this stage.
I was going to ask you what stood out about him then that gave you the belief that he could win PGA Tour events, because it's something to compete, but to go win them, Mike, and two of them
Well, yeah.
take something different, right?
I mean, you never know. You never know. I mean, there's 40 guys, 40 tournaments a year that they can win of any player in the world. And like some of them are won multiple times, like you said. So it's so hard to do. And everybody's goal when they're playing college golf is to not only play the PGA Tour, but you want to win the PGA Tour. We try to tell our kids, back when I was in college, my goal was to play the PGA Tour. I trained it every day and rehearsed it in my computer, my brain, and tried to log it in there. And I did. I played the PGA Tour. But I wish my goal would have been to win on the PGA Tour, because then you program that every day. And I think he did that back in the day. And I think he believed it. And it's always in there. And then when you have that goal, and then like I said, he had the ability to do it. I remember I think it was his junior or senior, it might have been his senior year. He was struggling. He didn't really hit it good that whole senior year, but he sure competed and scored for us. And I remember the last round at Nationals. No, maybe it was his junior year at Nationals out in Kansas. We needed a low round by somebody. He had not played good the first few rounds of stroke play, and he threw a 63 at him at the last round out there at a really hard course in Kansas, wind blowing, and so he had the ability to shoot low when he needed to. Big Ten Player of the Year, and he had all the accolades, multiple All-American, but he just had the it factor. You could see it. He didn't have the length, but he had the guts and the self belief.
Well, Brian right now is number 28 on the FedEx Cup standings right now. Thomas Detry, who won a tournament earlier this year, is number 31. Thomas, same age as Brian. How's his development been, similar or different than Brian's?
Well, I think they're the same age, but Detry was a year behind him in school. Yeah. Their development, you said, I think. Well, I mean, they're different players. They're different people. Thomas is very fundamentally sound. Thomas has a prototypical, beautiful golf swing, hits it hard, very fiery. I mean, they're really a lot different in the way they are, but their progression was similar. They both came in as freshmen and didn't play for us right away. Detry, I remember on spring break, his spring season, he wasn't even in our lineup. And Campbell didn't play the whole first semester he was here. He was not very competitive at all. And then he got in at the end of his freshman year. So, they didn't come in very competitive, but they both worked hard at it and believed in themselves. And but Detry's a fiery kind of outward guy, very shows things in his emotions. Where Brian is very subdued, and I think that helps both of them because they have to play to their personalities. But Thomas Detry's putting's gotten better. Short game's gotten better. Now he's winning on the PGA Tour, and he's in the top 30, like I said, 30, 40 in the world. And Brian obviously always had the short game, but he needed to get a little more solid with the ball striking and middle to longer irons and drive a little better, and he has. So their evolutions have been different for themselves, but they're both on the same track. I mean, Detry probably has had a better professional, more consistent professional career, been in contention more often, but Jeremy, professional golf is the weirdest thing. It's a 30, 40-year career. Yeah. There's no rhyme or reason to it. There's no textbook how to do it. Everybody goes about it differently. Some kids have success early and then fade. Some have start hard and then get at the end. And some players hit their peak in their 40s. Look at Strick. Strick won 10 times in his 40s. You just don't ever can't figure it out. So that's why it's hard to judge golfers for who they are, because it's such a weird formula, and you have to just they have to trust in themselves. They have to have something really, really good that they're good at that they can latch onto and never lose. And I think both those guys have had that.
We also have Adrian on the Korn Ferry Tour. He's had 3 top 10 finishes. Nick Hardy battling on both tours. Luke Guthrie on the Korn Ferry Tour. What's this like for you as a coach, Mike, to watch the development of these guys and have so many of them out on these professional tours right now?
It's fun. I mean, Nick Hardy was in town this week. Adrian Dumont de Chossart's in town this week. It's fun for those guys to come back and visit and spend time with them. And then you forget about Thomas Peters, who's on LIV, who's making all the money you could ever spend on LIV. That's it's the job of professional golf is to make money, and he's doing as good as anybody in it. So it's fun for me. It validates, I guess. Why I took the job is because you want to come back and represent your school where I played and do something special for the school, but you also want to help the kids reach their dreams. I mean, we're educators when you boil it down to it, not in the classroom, but maybe obviously on the golf course and in life. And they all want to play the PGA Tour. They all want to make a living at it. And so if you can have a little bit of help and structure and help them along those 4 important years of growth when they're leaving, teenagers to becoming men, it makes you feel good that they benefited from it. And I had dinner with Nick Hardy this week, and he was saying the same stuff, how thankful he was and how much value it was in that experience. And then Brian Campbell afterwards, we talked last night, and he says, "Coach, I just did the stuff we talked about. I did the stuff we did in college. It works. It continues to." I said, "I know. I thank you for saying that." But he says it's amazing how it just keeps going. I went back to the same thoughts we talked about. So by that happening and by me playing a role in what they're doing, it means a lot to me, Jeremy. It's cool, and that's the stuff you can't put a price tag on.
Mike, how much of you talked about your professional career, how much of that impacts your message to these guys when they reach back to you or, catch up with you at any time they're talking about their professional career?
Huge. That's the foundation of how I coach. Yeah. Again, I started coaching college golf. I never coached before. I didn't know what it was to coach. I mean, Ron said, "Here's your office. Here's your secretary. Good luck." I didn't know what to do, but I'd played on tour. I had failed a lot. I had succeeded a lot. So it's something that I can relay, and everything I coach, it comes out of my experiences. And I want those guys not make the mistakes that I made. And, Tommy Cool, We had a deep talk this week. He wants to know what he should do. Where should I go? Should I go up here where I don't have status, but I can have better future? Or do I go here where I can make some money and prolong my career and build some momentum and play 4-round tournaments? And again, in my answer I gave him, it went back to what I was doing back when my mindset, when I was 26, 27, trying to get on the PGA Tour, and what worked for me and what didn't work for me. So that's just another example of everything I approach, by the way we practice, the way we handle success or failure. It comes out of my experiences, but also watching and playing right next to and being good friends with the best players in the world as a player, and also coaching against the best amateurs in college golf. I just watch and observe, and I take it all in. And I think that's where experience and wisdom, if you will, for an older person just comes from your experiences and watching and letting it all sink in.
For sure. Well, I want to talk about your team now. You've added 2 transfers. You said you've been busy there that have boosted your roster for next season. Let's start with Dane Huddleston. I don't know, Mike, if there's any transfer portal rankings for these players, but I imagine Dane would be pretty high on that list coming from Utah Valley State. And I know the programs that were in on him. So how'd you get him, and what's he bring to your program next year?
Well, I know. Didn't you talk to him after he committed,
Yeah.
I think? Brentley Romine put out he covers college golf and PGA Tour golf, put out a tweet maybe a week ago ranking all the transfer portals, all the guys who transferred, and their rankings from last year on Scoreboard, the official score ranking vehicle for college golf. And we had 2 of the top 7. Obviously, Dane was number 1. He was the highest ranked transfer in the portal. And so we were excited to get him, obviously. But we had been planning for transfers for a while. We had a small team this year with the intent to hit the portal, because we actually thought the portal would be more full and more opportunities for people this year than there was, because of the roster size limits being enacted. But that actually got changed right before it happened, where the injunction came, and then they scrapped that. So there were still good players in there, but not to the numbers we thought. But we still came out ahead, and obviously getting Dane, and we watched him from afar. And Max Herndon knew Dane, played with him in Washington before, so we knew of him and watched him. And then when the portal hit that day, it hit. Boom, we were there and got him out for a visit before anybody else, which was a big deal. And he loved it, and the rest is history. What's
special about him, Mike, that you saw?
Again, I haven't really watched him play that much. I just talked to people about it, called, did my research, but he can win. He won 5 times in Division I golf. He's an athlete. He comes from an athletic family. His dad's a great guy, an athletic director. His mom is a good athlete. He's big and lanky. He's got the body to be good. And he's just, we've built this program more on potential than bona fide stars. We think kind of look and see what maybe kind of predict what they can do. And he's got the tools. He's never played in this big of an arena before. So we're going to see when he comes in, if he can stay grounded, still understand golf at Utah Valley is the same golf as it is here, playing against all the top teams every week. But he's going to have to, if he can do that and handle the emotional transition, he obviously can score his ball. He's not afraid to go low, and he's not afraid to hold leads. And that's what coaches like.
Freddie Turnell comes from Little Rock, where he was the OVC Freshman of the Year. What'd you like about him, Mike?
Well, again, you look at the scores, you look at the rankings. Again, you can't get out and recruit these guys and watch them and scout them. You just wait till the transfer portal hits, and then you throw your hat in the ring and see what happens. And but again, you look at his scores. He wins the Stanford event this year, which is one of the biggest events in college golf. Little Rock was a top 40, 45 team this year. He was the second best player on their team. He's played well over in England. He finished second there during the portal. He finished second at their second or the biggest stroke play event in Great Britain. So everybody we've talked to says he's got potential, and he's a very good player, and he's just young, and he wasn't highly recruited because he didn't have a record then, but then he gets better. And that's what we talked earlier about the tour pros. It's just, you don't know when people are going to get better or when they're going to stall out. You just don't know. And but our projection is on him is that he's got a world of talent and a huge upside, and if we can get him in the right culture and he embraces it, it could be special. But again, he beat a lot of top Division I team players this year out in Stanford, and he had a couple other good events he played good in, and it's all dependent on how his development goes after this.
You've obviously hit the transfer portal hard before, Mike, and had some. Tyler Gecke was great for you. Bassard was great for you. Last year, you didn't add many. What was the reasoning behind being aggressive this year in the portal?
Well, last year we got beat out for a couple guys. Last year was the old NIL rules, and we got hit pretty hard in that. Some teams came calling us a lot of NIL opportunities for these players, and we weren't in that game, so that hurt us. But it's still, you don't want players coming to your school just because of NIL either. And these two players this year are coming to the school because they want to be here. They see our history, they see our guys, our culture, and they have the ability, the possibility to get better is definitely here. And they've seen it over the years, 15, 20 years. So they're coming for the right reasons. So maybe it was a good thing last year didn't work out. That this year maybe we got two really good players.
I was going to ask you, Mike, what's that like now? What's the market like now? What's the impact of the house settlement on your sport?
Well, nobody really knows because the NIL stuff, you can't go out and it's not the quote unquote pay for play anymore. You can't go out and just recruit somebody and just give them money and just call it NIL. It has to be legitimate NIL, which was the intent of the rule, 3-4 years ago. So there has to be a market for their ability, and then it has to go through the clearinghouse and get cleared for whatever they're being offered. And we can't be involved in that. And we're not really sure on what the schools, it's kind of kept quiet on purpose, I think, a lot of schools, what they have when it comes to revenue sharing, because obviously it's not football and basketball.
Right.
Some schools have baseball, some whatever. Some schools are going to have golf, but to what level we don't know. And I think that's something schools try to keep quiet so that nobody really knows. But you try to, it's different. It's always been kind of an inexact science, and now when you have this involved, it's even more of an inexact science because there's NIL out there that I know SEC schools are telling kids they can get just as much NIL as they did before, but our people are telling us that's not the possibility. It can't be done. And I know coaches are saying, well, yeah, it can. And so it's still the Wild West. You still have the dust hasn't settled on this whole thing yet. So it's different, obviously, and it's exhausting. We're recruiting 27s now. That's 2.5 years. That's 26 months before they come to school. And I'm sure schools are talking NIL with them somehow. So it's the Wild West, buddy.
Yeah, I think what is happening, like the idea of what they're trying to implement with house settlement, makes a lot of sense, Mike, and be great. I just think a lot of people are skeptical of, is everybody going to follow the rules? Does everybody want to be governed by these things? And it's kind of prove it to us, right? I think that's how everyone's kind of approaching this.
I think you're right, but the system has been built on trust, and you're supposed to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And again, as golf coaches, I would say most golf coaches follow the rules because they don't pay us enough money to leverage our entire career and reputation on cheating. You know what I mean? On something, so it's not worth it. As football and basketball, when you get that big of money, people sway a little bit. And but in golf, I don't think it's that bad. But I still think there's some indiscretions I know that go on in golf, not the level of the big sports, but it's going to be curious to see how this happens. How when kids are used to getting money for the last 2 or 3 years, really unsanctioned, they can do whatever they wanted to now not getting some. It's going to be curious to see how some of these programs or kids react to not be able to get it.
Mike, before I let you go, I just want to ask you add these transfers to a pretty strong roster that is returning. Obviously, Jackson Buchanan was great here, had some really high moments, but everyone else is basically back. So what's the challenge to those guys when they get back to campus after, I'm sure, a summer of competing at some pretty big tournaments too?
Well, we have a good roster. I mean, we finished 13th, rated 13th in the country last year, which people think like it was a horrible year compared to what it's been the last 10 or 12 or 15 years, but it really was a solid year for as young a team as we had. But, so right now, Max Herendeen, if you look at the world golf rankings, world amateur golf rankings, Max is 18th. Ryan Voice is 36. That sounds pretty good, and it is good. But you have 3 teams right now in college golf that have 2 players each in the top 10 in the world. So, 3 college players teams we're going against have 2 players or each who are all, like I said, in the top 10. So there's still a lot of stacked teams out there, like there's always been. And we've held our own against them when the spring comes through and we get some rhythm going, and we're playing disciplined golf, and we start maturing and growing as players. That recipe it's still got to be the same. We're good. We have a nice roster, but if you compare it to some of the top teams like it has been forever, on paper, we're not as strong. But that's why they put the balls out there. That's why we tee it up. And so that's our mindset. Our goal is to get some discipline and get some optimism, get some grit and some toughness, and let's go out and play some smash mouth golf and let's see what happens. Maybe we'll be there in the end like we have been a bunch of times. But just to say on paper, we got some good transfers and we got some good young players coming back who have shown promise. But again, we only have 2 players in the top 50 in the world when there's a lot of teams out there that got 2 and 3 players, 4 players top 50 in the world. So we're going to have to play golf our way still to be competitive.
Last one for you, Mike. The Big Ten obviously added UCLA, who won the Big Ten this year. But is the Big Ten getting deeper? Is it getting more competitive?
Oh, I think so. I mean, those schools from out west have been traditionally been good. We've been beating them pretty good for 15 years. And that's what this year is so disappointing, is that we've handled UCLA pretty well for a better part of a decade. And we just kind of threw up on ourselves that last round, which was not customary. So that's still in our back of our minds that we need to use that for some motivation. But Oregon's obviously had good teams in the past, and USC. I mean, we got schools in Southern California. When the biggest question I get when I get recruits, I've been on the phone with recruits now for a month, from the portal from January 15th to now. Every conversation, the weather comes up. Now, again, there's a reason why we've been the standing golf program in the Midwest that has a national contending every year. That's something we're proud of, but there's a reason why that is. And the weather, these guys come up with it and they ask questions, and the weather is negative recruited so well by a lot of the warm weather schools that it's put in their head. So the Big Ten is something we always have to fight, and it's something that's inherent in our sport and in golf. At least in tennis, you can play it inside. Yeah. We can't play it inside. Us and baseball are kind of the similar kind of deals. And we defied odds for 15, 20 years. That motivates us. But the other 12 or 13 Big Ten schools in the North, where we're at in the Midwest, are continually fighting that, whereas Southern Cal and UCLA don't have to. So we'll see how that turns out for those guys in the long run. But again, it's not a prerequisite to be good. We've proven that for 15 years. I mean, we're the second best team over that period of time for a 15-year run in the country. And so it can be done. Our job is to convince these transfers and these young high school kids that you don't need palm trees to be good at golf. You just need a culture. You need an environment. So.
Great stuff. Mike Small, Illinois golf coach. We always appreciate your time. Hopefully you get a little respite at some point during the summer, at least some chance to focus on your own game a little bit, Mike.
Thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate it.